Hello everyone. Welcome to your own channel Food Tech Network. My name is Hanush Sharma. I hope you are all doing good. I am very happy to inform that from this video we are going to begin another series that is processing of meat and meat products. So in the first lecture we'll talk about the introduction to the industry of meat, then the type of muscles present in an animal body, and then the chemical composition of a basic meat. So let us begin with it. So when we talk about the basic scenario and aspects of meat, then I would say that meat consumption in developing countries like India has been continuously increasing. If we talk about the average annual per capita consumption, then in 1960s it was about 10 kg, in 2000 it was about 26 kgs, and like as per FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization's projections, by the end of 2030 we'll have around 37 kg per capita consumption. And also, if we see the global meat production, then in the year 2006, we had 267 million tons of meat being produced, which rose to 320 million tons in 2016. If we talk about the basic scenario of our country, then in the year 2014, we had 6.2 million tons of meat being produced. If we compare to other countries, although we have a comparatively lower consumption of meat, but we have a good livestock. This gives an immense scope to the meat processing industries to produce meat. Also, we happen to be one of the largest exporter of various kinds of meat. So this gives us an important aspect to study the meat industry and meat as a particular food. If we talk about the sources of meat globally, then meat products are mainly derived from the domesticated animal species like sheep, goats, cattle, buffaloes, pigs, and poultry. If we talk about the statistics, then poultry meat, which is generally obtained from chicken, turkey, duck, etc., constitutes around 36% of overall meat supplied or produced. It is followed by buffalo meat that has around 22% share in the overall meat production. Then we have goat meat, which is around 19%. This is followed by pig meat or pork that has 9% global production. Then we have sheep meat, which stands at 8% production. And then the last we have cattle meat, which stands at 6%. If we talk principally about meat, then meat can be defined as the meat tissue, the muscle tissue of slaughtered animals. Now, what are muscle tissues? These are the tissues which constitutes the muscle portion of an animal body. And slaughtered animals are the ones which are slaughtered and killed to obtain this muscle tissue known as meat. There is a whole process by which the muscle tissue is converted into meat, which will be studied in the subsequent videos of this series. The skeletal muscles is the principal muscle tissue in meat, although very little of smooth muscle tissue is also involved. The other important tissue used for further processing is fat. Although fat itself is not a tissue, but it constitutes a very important biomolecule present in the meat, and it is very much needed for the organoleptic properties associated with meat. Other edible parts of the slaughtered animal and often used like in further processing portions. For instance, if we talk about the internal organs, liver, kidneys, lungs, tongue, heart, diaphragm, esophagus, intestines, and other slaughter byproducts like blood, soft tissues from feet, head, all finds use in various kind of industry. For instance, if I talk about these non-consumable or inedible products like blood, soft tissues from feet, head, these byproducts find uses in waste valorization industries wherein they are utilized to produce waste bioactive compounds. For instance, such products obtained from pork processing when we slaughter pigs and obtain its meat. These products find use in the production of biopeptides, which are of high therapeutic and nutraceutical value. Similarly, organs like liver, kidney, etc., are known for their nutrient potential and are consumed worldwide according to different cultures, habits, and geographies. Now, when we talk about the types of muscles, we have three basic types. Statistically, it was found that there are more than 300 muscles present in the animal body. These muscles constitute about 35 to 60% of the carcass weight of meat animals. Now, carcass is the dead animal which from which we have got all the blood and other things removed. So it is a dead body sort of thing. The first type of muscle is known as skeletal muscle. As the name suggests, it is found in association with the bones, tendons, ligaments, and all those things constitutes the skeletal muscles. These are voluntary muscles, that is, animals or even we humans can have a control on their movement and they are controlled consciously. They form the bulk of meat product. Next, we have cardiac muscles. Again, going by the name, cardiac means one that is part of heart. So it controls itself with assistance from the nervous and endocrine systems. If we recall what we have studied in human physiology in the lower classes, then heart has its own sort of neural impulse generation system, and it is involuntary. It pumps by its own. We don't have a will or control over its movement, and it is found only in the heart. Next, we have the smooth muscles. These are again involuntary, that is, we have no control over their movement, and these are controlled unconsciously. These are found in the walls of blood vessels and internal organs, and sometimes we call them a part of visceral, that is, internal organs. Let us now in detail discuss about the skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscles are muscles which are attached to the skeleton or the skeletal system. Approximately 40% of the body mass is because of this skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscles are mainly responsible for locomotion, that is, movement, and voluntary contraction and relaxation. Contraction is like shortening of the length, and relaxation is coming back to the original shape and size. Skeletal muscles are directly attached to the bones, although some attach indirectly via ligament, cartilage, fascia, and skin. Each muscle is surrounded by a sheet of connective tissue known as epimysium. From the inner surface of epimysium, a septum or a wall of connective tissue penetrates into the muscle and surrounds the bundle of muscle fibers of fasciculi. This connective tissue is known as perimysium. It contains major blood vessels and nerves. Each muscle fiber is surrounded by a connective tissue layer called as endomysium. Now, if I show you the cross section of a typical muscle depicting arrangement of connective tissue, you can see at the top we have epimysium. Now, this epimysium sort of invaginates and surrounds these muscle fibers, as you can see in the cross section, and form the perimysium. And each muscle fiber, which is the basic unit of contraction and relaxation, is surrounded by something called endomysium. So this is how epi, peri, and endomysium forms the different levels of connective tissues present in the muscles or the skeletal muscles in general. Now, in this elucidated figure, you can see how the muscle fibers are arranged. So, if I show you from the bottom, this is a basic muscle fiber or a myofiber. Now, a myofibril is the basic contractile unit. Like this, it has the ability to contract and relax. Now, there are multiple myofibril which combine together inside a muscle fiber. So, muscle fiber is the cell. In this cell, there are many myofibrils present, and they are stacked together as bundle. So these stacked bundles are present in the cell known as muscle fiber. Now, this muscle fiber, as you can see, is multinucleated and has tapering ends. And when these many muscle fibers forms a bundle, they are known as a bundle of muscle fibers. And these bundle of muscle fibers together form a muscle, and at the end they tapers, forming this convex lens like structure, and at the end they form tendons and other such things. So also in this diagram you can see this is the myofibril. Then we have these myofibrils present in the muscle fiber or myofiber. These myofibers are stacked together in the fasciculus, multiples, and each fasciculus, as you can see, uh, is bundled to form a fasciculus, and this fasciculi is surrounded by perimysium, and multiple fasciculi forms the muscle tissue, which is further surrounded by epimysium. So again the same level of arrangement: endomysium, which is around the muscle cell or muscle fiber; perimysium, which is around the individual fasciculi; and epimysium, which is around the bundle or stacked sort of fasciculi. Now let us study the structure of a single muscle fiber. An individual muscle cell is called a muscle fiber. So muscle, like our different body organs, have cells which have been designated a specific name. Cells present in the nervous tissue, brain and all are known as neurons. Cells present in the kidney are known as nephron. Cells present in liver are known as hepatocytes. Similarly, cells present in the muscles are known as muscle fiber. Muscle fibers are usually 10 to 100 micrometer in diameter with conical or tapering ends, and their length ranges from 1 to 40 millimeter. Now you can see these are much wider as compared to their length, like they are thick cells. A muscle fiber is enclosed by a plasma membrane, which is known as sarcolemma. So the plasma membrane or the cell membrane of muscle fiber is known as sarcolemma. The cytoplasm of a muscle fiber is known as sarcoplasm. Within the sarcoplasm, the T tubules allow the transport of substances throughout the muscle fiber, and the endoplasmic reticulum, which is renamed as sarcoplasmic reticulum, stores calcium. In the further videos, we'll get to understand why do we need calcium and all these signals. So this is the basic structure of a muscle fiber. Now let us study about the chemical composition of muscle meat. Muscle tissue contains approximately 75% water, that is 3/4, and 25% solids, of which 19% are proteins, 2.5 to 5% are lipids, and very less percentage of biomolecules are carbohydrates. In general, meat is composed of water, fat, protein, minerals, and a small portion of carbohydrates. The most valuable component from the nutritional and processing point of view is protein. That is why people consume meat. Protein contents and values define the quality of the raw meat material and its suitability for further processing. The most abundant part of a muscle meat is water. So this is the largest component, comprising 2/3 to 3/4, that is 66.66 to almost 75% of the muscle tissue. Due to polar behavior, that is separation of charge, it is a dipolar molecule. Water molecules are attached with the electrically charged groups of muscle proteins. About 40% of the total water in muscle is so tightly bound that it is almost impossible to dislocate it. When we studied water in the food chemistry lectures, we talked about the fact that water can exist in three forms: free form, bound form, and immobilized form. So this is the bound form of water, which is chemically so strongly bound to the biomolecules present in the food that they cannot be separated. Now comes the protein. So as we know, protein are polypeptides. They are made up of multiple amino acids. Muscle proteins have been broadly classified into three categories: myofibrillar proteins, which are chemically soluble in dilute salt solutions; sarcoplasmic proteins, which are soluble in water or very dilute salts. Then we have stroma or connective tissue proteins, which are almost insoluble. So the myofibrillar, as I said, myofiber or a muscle cell has multiple those individual units called myofibril. So these myofibrils are made up of proteins known as myofibrillar proteins. Sarcoplasmic proteins are present in the what we call sarcoplasm, that is like cytoplasm, and it can constitute enzymes and other such things like basic proteins which are present in a cell. Then we have stroma or connective tissue protein, which surround like epimysium, perimysium, endomysium, right? Now let us see the table which sort of describes it very well. So as I said earlier, water constitutes around 75% of muscle or meat weight on wet basis. Protein constitutes around 19%, and myofibrillar protein are the most predominant portion of overall protein. It consists of myosin, actin, troponin, CINT, connectins, desmins, and many other such important proteins. It's also known as like this tropionin, CINT, have specific role. Then we have sarcoplasmic proteins like myoglobin, glycolytic enzymes. Myoglobin is responsible for the color of the meat, and it constitutes 5.5%. These sarcoplasmic proteins form 5.5% of overall proteins. Then we have stroma or connective tissue proteins, which has collagen. It is a triplet. It has a complex triplet structure. Elastin, sarcolemma, and sarcoplasmic reticulum-based protein, which forms 2% of the weight. Then we have lipids, which forms 2.5 to 5% of the muscle weight, and we can have neutral lipid, phospholipid, cerebrosides, cholesterol, etc. The next biomolecule is carbohydrate, which forms like 1.2% of the overall meat weight. It involves glycogen, which is a complex polysaccharide, glucose 6 phosphate, which is going to get into this glycolysis pathway, glucose, lactic acid, etc. We also have some non soluble substances which are miscellaneous, and we can say that they constitute 2.3% of portion. We have nitrogenous compounds in this category like creatine, anosine, monophosphate. This IMP constitutes the specific flavor of the meat. We have nucleotides, carnosine, anserine, etc. Then we also have inorganic substances like total soluble phosphorus, potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium, zinc, and trace elements. And these are present in minute quantities. And then we have vitamins like fat soluble vitamin A, D, E, and K, and water soluble vitamin C and B group. Meat is very famous for its repository of group B vitamins, which are very much needed for proper sustenance of our health. So this was about the basic chemical composition of meat. Now, let us study the composition of different types of meat products. So, first we have lean beef, that is defatted beef, defatted portion of beef. So, the 75% is constituted by water, 22.2% is by protein, 1.8% is for fat, 1.2% is for ash or minerals, and calorie per 100 gram is 116. Beef carcass has 54.7% moisture, 16.5% protein, 28% fat, 0.8% mineral, and 323 calories. Lean pork has 75.1% moisture, 22.8% proteins, 1.2% fat, 1% ash, and 112 calories per 100 gram. Pork carcass has 41.1% moisture, 11.2% protein, 47%, a whooping 47% of fat, 0.6% mineral, and 472 calories per 100 gram. Veal, which is the calf meat, is having 76.4% moisture, 21.3% protein, 0.8% fat, 1.2% ash, and 98 calories per 100 gram. Chicken, that is a poultry meat, has 75% moisture, 22.8% protein, 0.9% fat, 1.2% ash, and 105 calories per 100 gram. So this was all about today's video, wherein we discussed about the basic introduction of meat and meat products, their industry segmentation, category wise. Then we talked about the types of muscle, structure of muscle, muscle fiber, its arrangement at different levels. We concluded this with chemical composition of a general meat, muscle meat, and then we talked about different types of meats and their composition. So this was all for today. Meet you in the next video.